Look at the situation they got me facing. I can't live a normal life. I was raised by the streets, so I gotta be down with the hood team. Too much television watching got me chasing dreams. Is that good?
Did I do that?
It's pretty good. But Nintendo.
That's why Brett Favre is Brett Favre.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
If you're some man, what the rock is cooking.
Welcome to the 90s Entertainment Show, your podcast for 90s video games, movies, TV, sports, and much more. All right, 1995. What episode is this? Episode 6?
Episode 6.
Episode 6. We made it to episode 6. That's awesome. You know, one more episode, and if we get past 7, we get through the 7-episode itch.
Oh, is that right?
Which is pretty cool, because I'll be married 7 years this year.
Let's be honest. You've already acted on your itch. You already have jumped in and joined other podcasts. I'm hurt.
I was thinking about you
hurt.
I was thinking about you the whole time.
Sure. That's what they all say.
Yeah. Well, there'll be nothing like my first, Ryan.
Oh,
I'll always remember you.
Right.
All right. So, yeah, episode 6. Here we are, 90s Entertainment Show. For those of you who have never heard this before, we will cover usually 3 topics from the 90s, usually a video game, movie, sport, TV show. We've been pretty consistent with the movie and the game, and the last topic kind of goes back and forth. We've done sports, we've done music, we've done TV shows, so it's kind of a nice little thing to switch in and out. So, we want to encourage everybody to interact with us. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/NES Podcast. You can email us at nespodcast@gmail.com. We have a YouTube channel. We're on iTunes, and we're also on a new internet website, and I just want to thank Brian for designing that. It's actually, we kind of joined up with the guys from Retro Junkies, and there's kind of a cool retro community, and they have a website. It's www.theretrojunkies.com, and it's really awesome because our podcast is on there, the Retro Junkies podcast on there, the other podcast I'm in, the Genesis Gems, on there. There's a new Atari podcast on there where they go game by game, talk about Atari. So it's a real cool community, and we just want to thank Brian for designing that and letting us be a part of it. Couple more shout-outs again to Rob and Landon at the Retro Junkies. Those guys have been a huge help. You can check them out at facebook.com/retrogaming-junkies. Check out the Genesis Gem podcast. There's a pretty cool host on there. His name's Nick, too, so that's kind of cool. So facebook.com/Genesis Gems podcast. And also check out the NES Club. We had Rob McCallum on here, doing that interview for the documentary where they're going to go out and then try to collect 700 plus video games. So check that Facebook out at facebook.com/the-NES Club. And to do introductions this week, I am Nick Stevens. And with me this week, co-host, he is a winner of the 1995 World Series, a outfielder for the Atlanta Braves. We're actually going to use a real name, Ryan Klesko.
Ryan
Look at that.
Klesko.
Usually it's just the name. Yeah, I think you've been, Randy Savage and Rowdy Ryan Piper and
some Carey.
Oh, that was great, Mariah Carey. I mean, come on, I can't believe I didn't get any comments on that one. I'm sure your wife is a fan of Mariah
Probably
Carey.
so.
You didn't sing for her.
My wife doesn't listen to the podcast, so she's not going to make a comment.
That's true. Yeah, we could break down some Mariah Carey later. Dream Lover, that's a good song. 90s song. Anyways, you been doing all right, Ryan?
I've been great. Obviously, if anyone has noticed, we're a little delayed on our podcast because I was at Cedar Point in Ohio with the fam, and I had a good time there. I'm not a coaster fan, though. It's an amusement park, if you don't know. And so I was terrified the whole time because my son, who is 7, is now just 48 inches tall and able to ride basically all the death-defying coasters. And it terrified me for the fact that I may have to ride with him. My wife, who likes coasters, is pregnant with our 3rd child, so she's not allowed to ride anything. And I was YouTubing all the clips of these coasters and crying in my room thinking I'm going to have to actually ride a few of those. But I was saved by cousins of my wife's they were in high school, and so the little boys wanted to ride with the big boys, and I got out of riding any coasters. So that saved me from embarrassing moments on camera and film and everything else at an amusement park.
That's awesome.
not really. It was literally as terrifying. You don't
Yeah.
understand. It sounds funny, but I seriously was checking YouTube clips and freaking out at what might happen. So
I'll never forget the video you showed me when you were up on that roof and you were
yes,
the dude scared I
You know,
had so bad. I felt bad
the
for
scared
laughing
of-
at
Everyone
you.
talks. It's the fear of the falling. That's it's the sudden stop at the bottom. That's the fears. That terrifies me. And of course, we found out about 4 days later that at Cedar Point, after we were gone, it's like a log ride coaster type thing, water ride, and it flipped over. Like it was going up the hill, didn't make it, flipped over backwards. People were underneath in the water. Like people just jumped in and flipped it back over so that no one drowned. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's a good thing that I did not, or my son wouldn't have allowed to ride anything probably.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
everyone was okay. It's terrible. Like those things aren't supposed to happen, you know.
At least it didn't happen while you were there.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying it's any better that it happened at all. I may have to go back and edit that. Probably won't, but
Right. Right. It's
Cool.
understandable.
And of course, Ryan and I are very tired. I'm just going to talk about this because
Uh-huh.
I feel like we need to share. Because Ryan and I are training for a 5K run. For those of you who probably have never seen Ryan and I, we're not quite the 5K visual material, I guess you'd say.
Well, just, together we're over a quarter of a ton.
Did you-
And so
Are we
that's,
Don't say that.
And
So,
of course, most people may not know what a ton is. 2,000 pounds. And,
yeah.
So putting us together, we eclipsed the 500-pound mark.
So today was our 8-minute runs, and that was a little rough. So hopefully we don't fall asleep or pass out in this podcast.
Yeah.
But hopefully by the end of all that, we'll get to run a full 5K. We'll see.
Oh yes, hopefully. Can't wait.
Yeah. All right. So we'll just dig in here. I want to give a big shout out to the email of the show. You can be a winner by emailing us at NES. No, that's not right. Yeah, it is. NESpodcast@gmail.com, just like a friend of ours did, Aaron Casto. We haven't been getting a lot of emails, so Chris Owens has sent us great emails. I didn't want to make him the winner 2 times in a row. To be honest with you, Aaron was the only other person to email us, so he kind of won by default. And
it's our podcast. We can pick who we want.
And since Aaron's a local friend, we're not going to send him a gift. Aaron, if you're listening, we are going to drive to where you live and take you for some chicken wings.
That's right.
That is your gift.
You get an evening of chicken wings with the host of the NES podcast.
That's right.
That's fantastic.
We'll read his email a little bit later, but he sent a cool email about the movie Mortal Kombat we're going to talk about today. So that'll actually be our second topic of the day, but just want to say congratulations, Aaron. We'll read it here in a little bit, and be ready to eat some wings. We'll tell you what, no limit, Aaron. You can eat as many wings as you want.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
You may want to edit that part out.
No way.
So,
Yeah, so maybe we'll get down on some retro games there at BW3s. I think there might be some arcade machines. Maybe not from the 90s, but we'll play them anyways.
yeah.
All right. So, all right, let's get right into our topics. This week for video games, we're going to talk about Tekken. Now, Tekken came out in, what year are we in? 1995. It came out in 95 in the arcades and on the PlayStation. And to kind of back up, what I remember this game mostly from was the PlayStation, and I actually went out and bought an original PlayStation a few weeks ago and bought a bunch of the launch games, and man, those launch games do not hold up. So I was thinking about maybe talking about the launch games, and it just didn't quite work out. Tekken wasn't a launch game, but it did come out later, and I feel like Tekken is still a good game. The predecessors are a
I
lot better.
was gonna say I'm pretty sure that I picked the topics, for this year. And
that's right.
Yeah. And looking at the list, like I was thinking, the PlayStation, which that was one of my favorite consoles, and looking at the launch, like I was like, I don't even know if I remember any of these launch games. Like none of them, they didn't even jump out. Like I was just like, wow, because normally there's some big game that comes out with a system that whether it's good or bad, hundreds and hundreds of people play it and remember it, but I didn't.
Yeah.
None of them jumped off the page.
Well, and I bought about a little bit over half of the launch games. There was a good handful, and there's this one game I never played. It was like a first-person shooter with like a mech, like a robot.
Okay.
And it was so bad. It was like something DNA and operative or something. And you looked like it was moving real slow. Of course, first-person shooters back then were just not what they are today. It looked like you were shooting these big red balls out of everything. It was pretty awful. I must say though, Tekken was made by Namco, and the only other game I really felt like held up anything at all was Ridge Racer, which Namco made too. Okay. So Namco did a pretty good job that year for Tekken. But So, do you remember the story of Tekken, Ryan, or did
I don't
get
remember
that?
the story. Apparently, they made a movie at some point that wasn't a very good.
Yeah,
success.
I didn't watch that either.
And
Yeah.
but I don't really remember the story of Tekken. And
Well, like every other fighting game, it's a tournament.
right.
It's a tournament of fighters, and the thing about Tekken, as you go on through the storyline, Tekken 1, 2, 3, up to 6, I think. I have Tekken 6 at the house, and it's about this Mishima family, and they have this big. I guess they call it it might be called the Tekken Force. I think Tekken in Japanese means Iron Fist, right? You didn't do your research.
Sure, I didn't do
Sure.
my research. I'm waiting on you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, the tournament.
I'm just here to talk about the game, man. That's
don't
all
care about the
I'm not even going to talk about the story. Does the game talk about the story?
I don't think so. There's a little movie clip.
I was going to say, is there a section in the game that does that for me? Because if not, I don't even know.
So yeah, like the King of Iron Fist tournament is what they always call it, but it's about this family, the Mishimas, and the main boss in this is I never say this right, Hiachi or Hayachi. You can play as his son Kazuya, and every time you beat the game with someone, there's a little bit of a movie that kind of shows you a little bit of story. There's no text or anything.
Well, there you go. I didn't beat the game. So
yeah, you missed it. I let Ryan borrow my PSP, or I downloaded Tekken, and I just turned it on, and he was really close to the boss.
that was close.
Give him kudos there. When I went back and played it, I think I beat it 3 times with 3 other guys.
Oh,
so.
he was giving kudos. I beat it 3 times.
Yeah, that's
he was
right.
close.
So yeah,
You'll get yours later. It's, all right. It's coming.
It's coming. So yeah, the King of the Iron Fist tournament, and if you really want to read a story, I'm not going to read I really don't like reading things directly from Wikipedia, but there's a real cool story synopsis here on Wikipedia that I'm looking at now, and it talks a lot about Kazuya and Hiachi, how Kazuya was Hiachi's son, and how he's an estranged son who has entered for revenge against his father. That's the big kicker in the storyline in the Tekken, and of course. Spoiler alert, if you haven't played Tekken since 1995, Kazuya wins the first tournament, and he throws his dad off a cliff. And that's kind of what happened in the beginning. His dad threw him off a cliff. It's hilarious. I like that. But anyway, as far as memories go, do you have any cool memories about Tekken?
Well, no. I picked this game thinking that I had cool memories, and then you reminded me that I had memories of Tekken 3. Which
is awesome.
Which tend to be my favorite, but apparently was my favorite one of the Tekken. Which I'm not sure if it came out during the 90s. Probably it had.
I think it did.
And so
that or early 2000s. I remember you saying your favorite was Horang, and I'm thinking he really didn't come around until Tekken 3, right?
You're right. He's like Tekken 3, and I'm like, oh well, crap, that ruins that whole theory. But I played the first one, some, but obviously Tekken 3 is the one I'd settled in on the most. So I don't have any, and even that one, I was more of a Tekken than a Mortal Kombat guy. I don't no particular reason why.
Yeah,
I just played Tekken and enjoyed it as the fighting game. Which is weird that I played. I'm not always a big fighting game guy because I feel like they're just kind of one-dimensional. There's only one place to go with them. There's not really a. But I played the crap out of Tekken and and things through there for whatever reason. I got hooked on it.
Yeah, I like part of my appeal for Tekken was just it was simple.
Yeah.
Your buttons were left punch, right punch, left kick, right kick, and then you had your grab attacks where you would just hit a square and X at the same time, or a triangle and a circle at the same time. It was pretty straightforward, and it had a little bit of difficulty to it. Going back and playing it, I did struggle a little bit, but yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I realized that once you're past the first few stages, that you really have to kind of think about your fight besides just mash buttons, which is what I tend to do when I play beat 'em up games, is I like to just be a button masher. And then I realized that once you get past the easier levels, it's like I really can't do that because they just kind of wait for you, and then just 3 hits and you're dead, and you're like, how'd that just happen? So you kind of have to time things, use the block feature a little bit, which I always despised, blocking things. But a well placed block and counterpunch does wonderful things.
Yeah. I was happy block was just back. I'm playing the new Mortal Kombat game, and block is one of the R2 or L2 buttons, and I keep forgetting to hit it. I keep holding back, and I just get slaughtered. But so that's a good thing for me in fighting games. My first memory of Tekken was on the PlayStation, and even as I was a kid, my parents would never really buy me the system at launch. So we had real cool video game rental store that would actually rent out the systems. So we went and rented the PlayStation, and we got Tekken because it looked cool. We saw it in the arcades, and I think we got Tekken, and actually we did get Ridge Racer. So I just remember bringing it home, and I played that game to death. And I'm sure I'd always rent these things with my brother, and I'm sure he wanted to play the racing game. And I'm once I get in one of these games, it's hard for me to put it down until I beat it. And I loved it, and I've stuck with the series since. I've recently picked up Tekken 6 for $10 at GameStop, and I've had a blast with that. And I'm hoping to get that crossover. There's a Street Fighter X Tekken or Tekken X Street Fighter, and they cross over the series. That's out, and I'm really wanting to try that. And I love the series. I've never seen the movie though. I probably need to go watch it.
I've heard it wasn't good.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully it wasn't in the 90s. We don't have to cover it. But,
yeah.
But yeah, that was my memory. I just love the fact that it was one of the first cool 3D fighting games. I went back and bought another 3D fighting game that launched for the PlayStation called Battle Arena Toshiden, and I remember playing that as a kid. It's similar to Tekken, but they all have weapons. But that game is so sluggish now, it's almost unplayable.
Yeah,
and then it's funny because in that game you would jump over a guy and it would take you 10 seconds to turn around to try to hit him again, and then Tekken's pretty fluent. All those early fighting games were kind of unrealistic with how they jumped. I don't know if you noticed in Tekken, you jumped up in the air 80 feet.
Right, you jump 80 feet, and you pull your knees up real high, and it's So,
but yeah, that's it for my memories, and it's so funny about Tekken. These early character models. I'm looking at a picture of my favorite character, Paul Phoenix, and he's kept that classic straight up blonde hair. It looked like the dude from what was that movie called, House Party or something?
Yeah.
But when you play the very first Tekken game, their fists almost look bigger than their head.
Oh, there's some of them that their fists are huge, the ones that are typically a fist fighter, I guess. I whatever you're gonna call them, boxer, I guess. I don't know, more than a
stand-up guy.
They. Their hands are huge and they hit you very quick. I noticed. Was it Nina? Is it Nina? No.
Nina had the judo chops. And, her hands were never closed.
Yeah. There's one female that has some big gloves. Wasn't there? Am I wrong? I could be wrong.
Let's see.
And so, but
I'm looking at the game right now. There's
beat me to a pulp a few times. That was one where I was just my goodness, her punch combos were insane.
There's Michelle. She was kind of the Native American, I think.
Yeah, that's who it was.
Okay.
And
yeah, she does have some big fists.
She was just her punch combos just go at me, and I was that
is a good punch.
So then
combo.
I resorted to the just kicking in the shin a lot. I was this is quite lame, but I'm going to defeat her with the shin kick.
Were you using the guy with the tiger mask, King? He has a 3-hit combo. It's all low attacks.
No, I wasn't. When I played her, I was playing with Law.
Okay.
And,
yeah, he's got
so
ones too.
when I'm King or whatever the guy is with the tiger mask.
Yeah, King.
I mostly just like to wrestle, and try to do the grab and suplex and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, and being a big wrestling fan in the '90s, that was just awesome. They have all those wrestling moves because even the boss at the end of the game does this. Hiachi does this. He jumps and does this huge power bomb. I don't know. I remember the power bomb being such an awesome move back in the '90s, and to see some dude do it on Tekken was great for me growing up. But yeah, the wrestling moves were really neat in this. What I like about it is my favorite guy was Paul Phoenix, like I just said, and a lot of his moves from the very first game are executed almost similar and almost exactly the same as they are in Tekken 6. That many years later. And his grab move, I love his little grab move where he'll grab a guy by the arm and then flip him over, and there's this nasty bone popping sound, and I'm pretty sure they're using the exact same sound effect in Tekken 6 that they are the first Tekken. I think it's cool that it's kind of a nice nostalgia thing when you're playing these new games that they let some of that old stuff stay in.
Yeah.
But as far as gameplay goes, it's a very, very straightforward fighting game. You have your handful of characters, and one thing I love, and Ryan and I have talked about this, these old fighting games, was that it gives you a reason to play every character, because every time you beat the game with one character, they fight before they get to the end boss, a rival fighter, and then once you beat the game, you actually unlock that rival fighter. So, and they don't do that in games nowadays. Some games I am playing, like I said, a new Mortal Kombat game, and there are some unlockable characters, but it seems like most games now just have this huge roster right off the bat.
Yeah, there's no need to. Right, I'm sure that's the reason why I got to the point. I'm kind of a little OCD, and used to be more so. And like, so I'm sure, like in Tekken 3, that was my goal, was to, to unlock all the characters, and to, because who wants to pop your game in, and this game screen be there, and all these question mark boxes. I mean, it just annoyed me, and so it was at that point. And I always enjoyed these games because you could take them and go to a friend's house, or of course now it's all online play. But you can compete against a friend and and trash talk in the moment, or be like me. I'm the guy that does one move very well, and I just keep doing that, and everyone hates it. They're like, "Do something else," and I'm like, "It works, no, it works, no," and they're like, "Do something else."
You're one of those guys I can't stand playing, because there's nothing like going to an arcade and perfecting your combos and your moves, and some guy comes up and just starts beating on the sticking buttons and just kills
just
you.
a button. That's what I do.
Oh, I've never been so mad in my life.
That's what I do. And so
that's great, but so the gameplay is very simple. There's not they do have combos in this, but not like some of the modern games. Some of the modern games, and even some of the old Street Fighter games, just you can string together 50, 60 hit combos, and it gets ridiculous. And sometimes if you don't know how to do those combos, you're not going to ever last in the if you're playing someone one-on-one. But with Tekken, I felt pretty competitive. Like you said, I found a few tricks to kind of cheaply win at the end of the game when it got real hard. Especially with Paul Phoenix, I'd go in. He does this cool little flip kick where he just stays up on his feet. And as soon as I'd do it, I would jump backwards, kind of diagonal, and do like one of those really high kicks and kind of back away from the opponent and save me some space. And I just kept doing that over and over again until I beat him. But to me, that was always kind of fun about old games. You'd always find a cheap way to beat bosses. Or
I had to. I mean, that's it's the point, I think. And so, at least that's what I took as the point.
Yeah, the point of Tekken. I was actually reading Tekken was the first PlayStation game to sell over 1 million units. And I actually wouldn't have pictured that, because the PlayStation, it launched with Rayman, which is a huge game now. I don't know if you've seen Rayman games. There's a lot of Nintendo DS games, and even on the Wii U. But that was actually a really good game. It was a 2D platformer, and before they started doing some of that really bad 3D graphics, and I was kind of shocked it was the first one to sell over 1 million units, especially since it wasn't a launch title.
Yeah. But
it was a huge arcade hit, and of course, in the 90s arcade. I think about that time arcades weren't as popular as they were in the early 90s, but they were still pretty big. And I remember when I would see a game in the arcade and play it 2 or 3 times, and when the game would actually come out on console, like Street Fighter or some of those beat 'em up games, like that's the game I wanted because I played it in the arcade. That's probably what happened with Tekken a lot, I'd say. But so as far as favorite character, I've already said mine's Paul Phoenix. Who did you like in that game?
I played mostly with Law, and of course I liked King too. I'm not as good with King. Because I just wanted to wrestle, and that didn't work out as well. But I'm not sure why I picked Law. He just kind of seemed like the typical martial arts guy. Like, could do a little bit of most everything with it, and I just stuck with him. And like I said, I didn't beat it, so apparently it may not have been a good choice. But
he's good.
And
it's so funny because every fighting game I play, there's that typical Bruce Lee ripoff.
Yeah,
and Law is the Bruce Lee ripoff in Tekken. See if I can name a bunch of them. Let's just go from memory. Street Fighter, there's a guy named Fei Long. Mortal Kombat's Liu Kang. What else we got? Dead or Alive, there was a guy. Oh gosh, can't think of his name. But there is a guy in Dead or Alive that was a Bruce Lee ripoff. That Jeet Kune Do martial arts style. So.
I mean, basically, I had to pick one because I was disappointed that Tekken 3 was when my guy came out. So
with your timer running out, you're like, oh gosh, who do I pick?
Yeah, it's like, this is ridiculous. And so
I think that game had a timer on your character screen.
It did. Yeah. And so,
Law's a good choice. He fits well with Paul Phoenix because they kind of buddy up in some of the storylines. Funny thing about Paul Phoenix, I googled him and I was reading some of his story, and they kind of use him as a comic relief character. First of all, his hairdo is just ridiculous. And he's just this over aggressive like karate judo dude, and his rival in this game, which I thought was funny, it was really like the only weird character. No, I don't mean weird character, but just odd. Was Kuma, who's a giant bear, and that's like his rival throughout the Tekken series. And
bear, I forgot about the bear.
Yeah, I think it was Kuma. So and they were talking about in an article I was reading how he's the comic relief of the story. And I didn't really think about that till I read it, but even now I'm been playing some Tekken online. And I use Paul, and I can do pretty well with him. He's pretty powerful, and he's got some real sweet throws and stuff. And I've got all his moves memorized.
Yeah.
What stinks about that, all of his new moves in Tekken 6, I try to the movements are kind of similar in Tekken 1. I tried to do some of those moves, and I would just lock up and screw it up. So that's not fun. So, yeah, so I think Tekken holds up. If not the game, just the series. There's a huge,
definitely.
Yeah,
the series.
The lasting appeal. I mean, have you played any Tekken games recently?
No, not just that one. I was gonna, but I decided not to.
Yeah,
because we were talking about this one. I didn't want to taint my memories with my beloved Tekken 3 or 4 or whatever it was that I played on it, and so I actually might though now because it kind of intrigues me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and just so you know, you can game with me online on PlayStation Network. There's a free to play Tekken game. It's online only.
Yeah, that's funny knowing that I have the great satellite internet that has delay out the
That's true. We did
rear end.
We did try a Skype session out there, and it was the worst.
And probably if I played online for 10 minutes, I would be up of my month's limit of internet, which we don't need to talk about that. I don't understand how internet is limited, but that's okay.
Well, if you beat me, I just blame it on lag.
And so that's right. That'd be my excuse.
Yeah, it's finally an excuse I get. All these challenges we keep doing for the podcast, you keep beating me. I'm usually one winning at games. Right. We'll talk about that later. Sad memory, but so yeah, I think Tekken holds up. What do you think, Ryan?
I think so. This one, obviously the graphics get better and things like that as we go from, but this game is easily playable now. I think it's fine. And like you said, obviously the series, it's been able to stand. You said Tekken 6? Is that probably the?
I think the newest game's Tekken Tag Tournament 2.
Okay, yeah.
And as far as story goes, Tekken 6.
I think it's held up well.
Yeah, and there's a ton of. I know they've had a few spin-off games. Nina, the blonde girl, had like a single-player game where she was like an assassin. I knew that, and then all the handheld systems seem to have, even Game Boy Advance, which is like a 16-bit system, had like Tekken Advance, and it wasn't bad. It was a pretty linear game because there's only 4 buttons on the Game Boy Advance, and then there's a Tekken 3DS game I've been wanting to get. It's still kind of expensive. I don't like. Anyone that knows me knows I don't like spending full price on anything. But it looked pretty cool, and there's a few on PSP, and so it's on like almost every system. So yeah, but I think it holds up. Ryan thinks it holds up. So
it holds up. It's done.
I don't know. Have we talked about anything that doesn't hold up?
Well, of course not. This is our first run through the '90s, right? So we're gonna hopefully picking the good things.
Yeah, I know.
And so
I'm not. I don't have a lot of fun coming and talking about something I really hate, so I got to have some enjoyment, which that's probably going to happen on that Genesis Gems podcast because our goal is to cover every Sega game, and I told the guys we got to start picking some bad games or we're going to have an awful last few podcasts, all these awful games. But so yeah, Tekken holds up, absolutely. I'm not sure I want to go watch a movie about it.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Most of these fighting game movies have failed, except for the one we're going to talk about next. Because they had a fighting game movie for, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Dead or Alive series.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, they have a fighting. They have a movie for that, and I think one of the main characters was actually played by, what's her name? She played Joy on My Name Is Earl, just that real country girl. So,
oh wow!
So yeah, I don't even know how that would.
Yeah. Anybody have any comments about Tekken?
I went to Facebook a little bit ago, and no one did. I actually asked 2 questions, which all you listeners, please comment because it gives us something else to talk about. Yeah, your opinions are probably better than ours. No, we'll let you do the podcast. No, I'm teasing. But yeah, absolutely. Tekken, I think, was the only one that didn't have any real comments.
Okay.
I posted 2 pictures here, and I don't see anything. But I had a few people just give that thumbs up on Facebook saying they like it. I'm not going to read those names.
That's kind of, that's kind of how, I think Tekken's a great game. It's fun to play. I don't think it's necessarily got like people that are, die hard, fantastic Tekken. Everybody, you want to play it, you want to play the series, that's fine. But it's not one of those games I don't think that a lot of people rush out and necessarily get obsessed with.
Yeah.
Just because, it's kind of hard to get the storyline. Like I said, I didn't know the storyline until you talked a little bit about it. And, and so I just think it's kind of one of those games that it's fun to play, but it is what it is. And, and it goes from there.
Yeah, and fighting games are definitely there's a special community for fighting games, and I know they still have tournaments for people who play fighting games. They travel, but it's definitely those type of guys probably could rush out and get it, but your everyday gamer like you and I are probably just going to pick it up on his cheap.
Right, and enjoy it.
Yeah. And for those of you really wanting to dig into the story of Tekken, I would absolutely recommend Tekken 6 because when you start the story mode, it actually goes back to Tekken 1, explains what's going on, who wins what tournament. That's kind of how I knew a lot of that because I watched that story, and from Tekken 1 to Tekken 5, it went through who won this, who betrayed who, blah blah blah, who threw who off a cliff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was good. I absolutely recommend any Tekken game. I've never played a bad Tekken game. So.
Yeah.
But anyways. Yeah, so absolutely it holds up. So we're going to go on to our next topic, which is Mortal Kombat the film. I wish I could just start that. Maybe I'll put it in here, that awesome Mortal Kombat song. Mortal Kombat! And it breaks into some techno music.
Yeah, I'll say it's techno.
Yeah, I hate techno, but that song rules.
Right, that's pretty good. I have to, I would try to mimic it, but there's no chance at that.
Yeah.
And so, well, you mentioned it, so I actually am commenting on the music because I don't notice the music, but like those come in, and I thought, you know what, Nick will probably make fun of me, so I'm glad you started it that way because I wasn't sure what your opinion would be of it, but like I just feel like for the place of that in the movie and what it was, like that was just like the perfect ssong. Like I want to kind of get up and doing the whole like dancing around fighting stance,
like Taibo, Taibo to that.
Something. I mean, and I wrote down, I even put on my page with 5 bullet notes that I keep. I was like, it has the Jock Jams feel, which sadly enough, I was a huge Jock Jams guy, like which I'm sure was probably a '90s thing, and the ESPN presents Jock Jams, and
y'all ready for this?
Yeah, and I used to buy those CDs, sadly enough. And,
I did too.
And like it just had that feel, like obviously. The lyrics are not going to win anything. Even the music's not going to win anything. But you just get pumped up when you hear it. And so,
yeah.
So as far as the music as a whole, I guess I can't comment on. But there was those 2 or 3 times when that is played, and they're like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Dun, dun. It's like
it was good. It was a real good mixture between techno music and heavy metal, which I'm a big metalhead. The band Fear Factory does a song in it. I love Fear Factory, and who else did it? George Clinton featuring Buckethead, and for those out there who know who Buckethead is, he used to fill in for Slash on Guns N' Roses. He does his own thing. Typo Negative, they are kind of like a goth band with a real, I think it's Peter Steele's the lead singer's name, with a real deep voice. So there's some cool songs in there, and and I absolutely agree with what Ryan says. Every time I hear that song, I want to start fighting or something. It just pumps me up. I think next time we go play pickup basketball, we need to carry a boom box and
get that. Get a Jock Jam CD. We need a Jock Jam CD. I should get some. I'm gonna download some of that for my runs. That's what I'll do.
I think Jock Jams might be a good topic for '90s entertainment.
It probably
show.
would be.
Let's
like,
do it.
Of course, I don't buy CDs anymore or anything, but I imagine that they probably don't sell those quite like they used. They used to be pretty popular. I felt like they come out all the time, and I own most of them. So.
And what's that? We'll go to like a sporting event. I'll go watch my Marshall Thundering Herd play, and they'll start playing a song from that. It might be like a rap song, and I'm rapping every lyric, and people are like, "What? I thought you liked metal."
Yeah,
wow, this is childhood stuff.
That's right.
So yeah, all right. Mortal Kombat. To me, there were a few video game movies coming out in the '90s. I know Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. And of course the Super Mario Brothers movie. And as a kid, I loved all 3. But a big but. Then the reason I loved all 3 because they were video game movies.
Right.
It didn't matter.
I'll give you that.
Because you would see a character, oh my gosh, that's Mario, or oh my gosh, that's Guile from Street Fighter. It didn't matter how they acted. To me, that was awesome. But going back, out of those 3 I mentioned, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and Mario Brothers, I think only Mortal Kombat I could actually sit down and enjoy today.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Mario Brothers, oh my gosh, wasn't that a disaster?
It was bad.
I couldn't even tell you who was in it.
Well, John Leguizamo played Luigi.
Okay, that's right.
And the guy that played Bowser was, I guess he was famous. I can't remember his name, but they'll still talk. I've heard some retro podcasts cover video game movies, and I don't think anyone liked that movie.
Wow.
For what it was at the time, I liked it, and they try to do something.
And kids would love it. It was their guy, but like, it was a travesty.
Yeah,
I mean, it really was. Looking back,
and now my son's starting to watch that Mario and Luigi cartoon on Netflix that kind of starts off with the 2 guys that aren't cartoons, and it goes into
we've watched some of that too.
That's pretty awful too.
It's not good either. No,
yeah. But it has taught my son who Luigi is.
Yeah.
I was playing Mario 3D Land. Well, we're off topic, but I'll go back. I was playing Mario 3D Land on 3DS, and after you beat the game, you go to the special stages and you can pick Luigi. And I was playing it one day, and he goes, "Daddy, that's Luigi." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm proud of you, boy."
Yeah,
he knows who Luigi is already. Anyway, sorry. On to Mortal Kombat. So yeah, the story. Do you know the story of Mortal Kombat, Ryan?
And not as well as I should, I'm sure.
as well as you
I'm
should.
sure you can tell me though.
Yeah.
That's why I do this podcast, is to get an education.
Yeah, you can
And,
just hang out with your friends.
Of course, I know. I watched the movie, so the story is that there's this combat that is once a lifetime or something like that, generation, once
Every
a
100
generation.
years.
And if they lose 10 in a row, the other realm can enter the new realm and wipe them all out. There's the storyline.
That's a fantastic summary. I love this, and I can't remember who it was in the movie, probably Johnny Cage or Sonya, but the movie actually kind of makes fun of the storyline, because like they were, I don't know if they're on the boat or getting ready to board it, but Raiden was talking to him and pretty much said what Ryan just said, and it's like, oh, so a fighting tournament's going to determine the outcome of our lives. The way they said that was kind of sarcastic, like I'm kind of poking fun at this whole storyline, but so yeah, I mean, you can't quite have a fighting game or a fighting game movie without the tournament meaning something, or some cash prize, or
something there.
Yeah, and of course this movie being so, the story kind of being so dark, had a little bit more to it. This underworld or the outworld is going to take over the Earth realm. I know they call them realms to, if they win the 10th here. So, and there's a lot of crazy characters in this movie. We went over the characters in our video game podcast, but they kind of. I really liked the way they portrayed some of these characters. Some I didn't. Some I really liked. I really like Johnny Cage. He's my favorite character in the game, and I thought they did him justice.
He's my favorite character in the movie, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is probably a consensus of a lot of people. So I hate to pick the norm, but like in the movie, I feel like that was probably the most. He had added some humor. He kind of had some self-reflection going on there about who he was, and you just kind of relate to his character probably better than most. As far as that goes, I was impressed with how they, given probably some limitation of technology in the 90s, that I think they stayed within themselves. Like sometimes when you go back and you watch a movie has some effects, which they didn't really sprinkle a whole lot of effects, I don't think necessarily, but like with Scorpion and Sub-Zero and was it Reptile, they didn't try to do too much. Like sometimes they try to do too much, I think, and especially with nowadays they can pretty much do whatever they want. But in the 90s it was kind of all, there was a distinct line. If you did too much in the 90s with special effects, it really just kind of took away from a lot of things. And I feel like the effects were fairly decent for what they were working with. For those, especially those characters specifically.
I think the only criticism I'd have is probably the early Reptile before they fight him, just the kind of bad CGI, I think.
Yeah, that one wasn't very good.
But I always like how like Goro, for instance, like the just the costumes. That was almost more believable than some of the even some of the newer CGI.
Yeah.
I always loved the costumes. I love of course, I love the early Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and I love the, even Jim Henson's work on the early Star Wars movies doing Yoda. I mean, and I'm not saying I don't like the CGI Yoda, but there's just something you can see the fruits of the labor done in those costumes. And Goro was honestly intimidating. I remember the scene where Kano was eating, he was just being a pig and everything, and Goro gets in his face. I was a little scared for Kano. But I mean. A lot of the effects, with Raiden and the when he come on the scene and kind of appear, it was pretty good for the time. I'm not gonna say it's the best thing in the world. But
no, obviously not as far as effects go and that sort of thing. But I wasn't like ooh. Like sometimes you go back and watch a movie, and in the time you think, oh, this is a good movie. The effects are good, like it looks great. And this many years later, when all the things that we've seen, that they're able to do, it's like I wasn't, and especially when you consider this wasn't a movie of special effects, it was a fighting movie. And I think they did okay with it.
Absolutely, I can, like I said, when I rewatched this again, and I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, so. I did. I enjoyed it again. I mean, I could probably go another 10 years and not watch it, and not miss anything. But I mean, it's a solid movie. Yeah. I mean,
and playing the new Mortal Kombat game, for those, I haven't played a Mortal Kombat game in quite a while, and the new one I thought was just it is a reimagining, but I thought it was just going to go over all the storyline again. But the cool thing about the new Mortal Kombat, it has like a current story where Shao Kahn's getting ready to defeat Raiden and the whole, all the Earth fighters, and then Raiden has this, he's having this big like a vision, and it goes back to the very first Mortal Kombat tournament. So that's cool. So like, he's trying to prevent all those steps from happening.
Yeah.
So he's trying to alter history. So that's really cool. So anyone that hasn't played that game yet and really enjoys any kind of story in Mortal Kombat, I recommend that. I just beat the story, and it's really fantastic. But I know you're probably sick of fighting games by now. We've played the original Mortal Kombat and Tekken, so you may not want to play.
Probably not jumping into that.
It's kind of got me back into the fighting game kick. Like I said, I got Tekken 6 now.
Yeah.
I'm playing the original Mortal Kombat, so it's...
Of course, I'm just a poser as a gamer anyway.
No. You got me into Uncharted, so which is a fantastic game.
That is a fantastic game. But one thing I also like when you talk about even, I guess, video game movies in general, but like, I always feel like there's something to be lost, because you play a video game and these characters, and some, like in this case, some of them are human, some of them are not, some have, but even the humans in games always have insane abilities, that just I don't think translate well to movies. And so sometimes I feel like you're setting up for failure, because it's like, I play this game and these people can do just insanely ridiculous things, and it's like, the deal is, if I watch that on TV, I'm gonna, at times you're just gonna be like, this is cheesy, and I think they incorporated a lot of their moves, and some of their special moves, even fairly well, and like you said, it kind of from the beginning, they kind of, I don't think they were poking fun to be like, haha, Mortal Kombat's stupid and silly, but I think they realized that if we take this seriously and try to make this like this real stern, storyline, drama, suspense, that it's not going to float. And so I think the fact that there was, they were poking fun all throughout the movie, kind of like you could tell, like just they had the one-liners and the different things. I think that, made you enjoy the movie better, because you weren't, just sitting there and then minced in this, intense feeling the whole time.
Yeah, like you said, one-liners. I think that's why I like Johnny Cage so much. I know one of the very first fight scenes when they're in Outworld and all those guys attack him, Liu Kang and Sonya. I know Johnny Cage said something like taking care of it. He said something stupid, and Liu Kang just looks at him and he's like, "What? They're on the ground. We're standing up."
Right.
I love that. And as far as favorite part goes, and like you mentioned earlier, mixing in some of the moves from the games, I love the crotch punch to Goro.
Oh, that was...
Of course, I think in the game, I don't think Goro had a crotch, because every time you try, there's a few people in the original game that you would try the crotch punch with, and he would just do a split and not do anything. But I love, that was one of my favorite scenes, and I was when I was a kid.
Then of course, he followed up with the one-liner of, that it hurt, shook his hand and was like, it hurt, and
then of course when Johnny Cage beats Scorpion, he leads by that picture, like the autograph. I'm pretty sure on one of the games he does something like that as a fatality or something. I don't know. It might have been Mortal Kombat 2 he did that.
Of course, there's one favorite line. What was it? They're headed into one of the caves or something, and Sonya goes in first, and he says, what's he say? You gotta admire her spirit or her or will or something. And Liu Kang's like, it's not her spirit that you're admiring. And I'm like,
he's like, yeah.
It's like, it's true. And so,
well, then when they're looking for when Sonya's going crazy looking for Kano, and I think they run into where Goro was, and because he kept trying to help her out and go before her, and then once they saw Goro, I was like, "Yeah, go ahead, Sonya, go ahead,
ladies first." And you go in and make sure it's okay. I think it was something like that. And so, of course, I just checking. I was like, "Who is Sonya Blade?" And is that her last name? Is that how?
Yeah, Sonya Blade.
And I just found out that she was in Billy Madison, was the teacher
Veronica
in Billy
Vaughn.
Madison. Yeah, and I was like, it's like that's what I was like, like it took me a while, because I was like, two totally different characters, obviously, and it was like, who is this? Like, why do I know her? And
Bridget Wilson, she did a fantastic role in The Wedding Planner.
The Wedding Planner. Wow. Sadly enough, I know what movie you're talking about.
Oh, no.
I've seen The Wedding Planner.
I thought I was gonna get that blank look.
And
I think she was Matthew McConaughey's original girlfriend getting married in that movie. That's sad. I shouldn't know that.
Well,
I shouldn't know that.
That is a complete romantic comedy. Like like complete. Like there is no like.
Yeah, it's in my collection thanks to my wife.
Right. Sure. And it's actually I'll even show myself here. That's Jennifer Lopez, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. That's sad.
Yeah, that's real sad.
Yeah.
And
I'll just make this excuse. I'm a Matthew McConaughey fan because he did the Marshall movie, He's in the Marshall movie. I went to Marshall. I was going to school there when they filmed that movie, We Are Marshall. So that's cool. I actually have a script because...
Doesn't mean you have to say you're a Matthew McConaughey fan.
Oh, just because of that movie.
I mean, the guy...
I love bragging because I was playing music in a local group there, and we actually played in a little chapel there. And when they did the memorial scene in We Are Marshall, they took over for a few weeks. We didn't have our services, and they left a copy of the script on my bass amp, and I have it. So, yeah, We Are Marshall. How do we go from Mortal Kombat to We Are Marshall? Anyways,
Matthew the wedding planner. You're a romantic comedy fan.
I'm a huge romantic comedy fan.
And
so yeah, and then the guy who plays Liu Kang, what's his name? I had it here somewhere. It was Robin Shu, and he was in, of course, he was in that movie with Chris Farley, the Beverly Hills Ninja. He was the guy following around, and I haven't seen this movie yet, which I thought this was hilarious when I looked him up. He is in one of the new Street Fighter movies.
I did look up. Yeah. I saw that he was in that one of those newer ones too.
I'm like, that's got to be some kind of like blasphemy that's going to get struck down. He can't be in Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter.
I did notice that. I mean, they really didn't go on to have illustrious careers, most of them. The character Johnny Cage's, the actor that played him, I don't think he really went on to do hardly anything else.
Lyndon Ashby. I looked up his movies and I didn't really notice anything.
I did notice that, it did say that they did their own stunts, which was really fairly impressive.
Yeah,
they learned martial arts, and had some background, originally, and that they all did their own stunts.
And I think I remember reading something about Bridget Wilson. They had a lot of just hard time with her because they said she wasn't real coordinated, wasn't athletic at all. So I mean, there was a lot of criticism on her her fight scenes, but I didn't think they were that bad. I don't know.
Terrible.
I mean, it was.
I mean,
I'm like I said, I'm no martial artist or anything. I'm not going to critique that, but she put a little spanking on Kano there,
right?
And cracked his neck.
And sometimes it's always a little bit, because first off, not to sound sexist or anything, but she's fighting this dude that's 6'5", 280 pounds or whatever it is, just kind of, bulked up. And, realistically speaking, probably that's not a fight that a 5'8", 160 pound or probably not 160 pounds, would win, but... Yeah. So I think in some regards they're going to look a little cheesy probably and unbelievable.
It's hard to pull off that character because... a lot of the critique was that she was trying to act like Sonya Blade, who kind of it's kind of tough and rough, but yet she was like this kind of girly girl. But, Sonya Blade is depicted as a real beautiful, mean fighter. How are you going to find that? That's a hard mixture to find.
Well, I read that they wanted Cameron Diaz, and I was kind of like, I'm not sure that would have been a good fit either. And
maybe Cameron Diaz back there, but we didn't know all the movies she's in now.
I guess that's true, maybe. But
you probably grab one of those new the UFC. Women, because a lot of those girls are modeling now, and they're tough fighters. I know the UFC. I just read this today. The UFC champion Ronda Rousey is going to be in the next Expendable movies. So
I can't believe they're doing another Expendables.
Yeah, so there's a little current.
I haven't seen
topic.
2 yet.
I haven't either. I'm sure it's filled with explosions and greatness, but
yeah.
Okay, we went all off topic a lot here with Mortal Kombat.
That's all right.
Did you have a favorite part? I already mentioned Goro crotch punch was mine.
Not really. I like the one-liners. I did like the line where he was like, "It's not her spirit that you're admiring," or whatever. That was one that just stuck out. I was just kind of like, "Yeah, that's funny." And so
we like our one-liners. That's
I do.
Sure. So yeah, we talked about music. I
liked music.
Doing our 5K program, I think I'm going to download that. When we actually go, this might be something you have to do. If we do sign up for a 5K, you and I, Ryan, we got to just do nothing but Mortal Kombat soundtrack the whole run. Let's see if we can pull it off. Just for all the listeners. We're really going to have to do this 5K now that we're talking about it on the podcast.
Listen, I was planning on it. I think you're the one wavering. I'm worried about you. So
I've kept up this week, so yeah, we love the music. Like I said, I'm probably going to download some of this stuff. I really missed that old Mortal Kombat tune. And what I loved about that Mortal Kombat tune, they used some of the sound clips from the original game.
Okay.
I think it's not Shao Kahn, but Shang Tsung that's doing the excellent and all that junk. I'm pretty sure. I may be wrong, but it sounded like it to me. And of course, our famous question for every subject: does it hold up today? I think so. Sure.
I don't whatever our standard is. Like we have no formula for this. I watched it and I enjoyed it. I mean, so
And I think
therefore
that-
that's a standard enough that
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if it's one that I would add to a collection of mine or anything. I rented it actually on iTunes, but
I think I may buy it again.
and it wouldn't be terrible. I didn't let my son watch it yet. Which I think probably could have. He's 7, but anytime.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
Anytime we watch a fighting movie, he just wants to just beat everything up. So I was kind of like, I don't know if I really want to.
Yeah. Especially when it's that dark too.
Yeah, it was a little dark at times.
I don't want my son trying to
and
freeze people or shoot.
So I'm not quite there yet, but I'm sure he would have loved it. He would have thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
But but I think it holds up. I think
that's a good formula.
It's solid.
That's a good formula. You don't have to be a physics teacher to get that formula, but you can definitely, if it holds up today, and if you enjoyed it today, and you can definitely like it.
I enjoyed it. I didn't fast forward or skip anything. Sometimes with movies, I'm always like, oh, I'll get to the end.
No, I thought it was structured well. You had it introduced the 3 main characters. Went right to Outworld, kind of explained the story, and then it was like fight after fight after fight. I like that because you had the big fight that we mentioned where all 3 of them were fighting together. Liu Kang fight against the crazy dread guy. Sonya fought Kano, and then Johnny Cage's fight with Scorpion, which I thought was funny because all these fights are kind of in public. It's your turn, Liu Kang. It's your turn, Sonya. Well, Johnny Cage, why don't you just wander around the woods till someone finds you?
Yeah, that one was kind of. I thought I was like, everybody's watching all these other fights, and here he is, just like, showing up. I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Of course, he kind of got the raw end of the deal on both fights because then that was the same fight that he warped him to, some abandoned wasteland or something elsewhere.
And
it's like
hell or something.
Yeah, it's like everybody else is in this nice little ring, and in here on the sand of the nice tropical island. And Johnny Cage is, of course, he was fighting in his slacks and
it's Johnny Cage.
His dress shirt.
Johnny Cage. I sometimes I'm too picky, but I was a little. I don't know, like the scene with Scorpion. I love the fact that they try to play from the game and say, get over here, but I think they did it a little too much because then Johnny Cage was up on a platform or something and he kicks it down, get down here. Well, he doesn't say that.
Get down here.
Yeah, so I mean, it was cool in a way, but I thought maybe they played on that too much. But at the time, those guys weren't talking in the video game, so they probably just played off that. So I always kind of wondered how they came up with that. The programmers were making that game, and they're like, let's have this guy throw a spear at the dude and pull him over here. And there had to be some chuckles. We'll make him say something. Get over here.
Get over here.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So, but yeah, I like that scene too. But I thought that was funny. Just kind of a random fight for Johnny Cage. And apparently the new video game in the storyline, they just wherever you get challenged as part of the tournament. That's how they play that in there. So the storyline will have a couple guys talking, and another dude will just walk up, you want a piece of me? And then it's part of the tournament.
There it is.
So there you go. So yeah, and another critique, I thought the guy who played Shang Tsung overacted a little bit, but given that his character was kind of outrageous anyways, so I didn't think it was bad, but the whole your soul is mine kind of.
Yeah, sometimes like when they, your soul is mine. I'm like, oh my goodness.
It's just a little, but and these characters were outrageous, and and one more actor we didn't go over was Raiden.
He was the most famous.
Yeah, Christopher Lambert, Highlander. So.
No, his accent was thick. I thought, however, I don't even know how he did it. Because obviously it's not his. It was real raspy. I don't think he obviously sounds that way.
Which one? And we'll get into that later. I remember reading one of the listeners' responses. It was actually a friend of mine from grade school and high school commented on that, the same thing. And speaking of listener comments, I'm
good. It held up. Let's hear him.
It held up. So our first comment comes from Mario Molina, and big shout out to him. He's been commenting pretty consistently with all of our stuff. So I just want to say big thank you to Mario for that. And if we're pronouncing your name wrong, please let us know. I'm pronouncing it Mario Molina. He says, great movie. This is the only fighting video game adapted movie that was done almost perfectly in any era, in my opinion. I think Sonya's fight scene could have been way better. A little cheesy there, but still awesome because it was Bridget Wilson. And Liu Kang's fight with Katana looked just like a practice, but other than those 2 scenes, the whole movie was on point. Part 2, however, that's a different story. Did you ever watch Part 2?
I did not.
It's pretty bad. like all the other video game movies, I enjoyed it because I had characters from the games. Because it had a lot of characters from Mortal Kombat 3, like Cyrex and Sector, the robots, and some other ones. Johnny Cage, spoiler alert, Johnny Cage dies in the very beginning of the movie, so I was very sad. And it wasn't even the same actor.
Yeah,
so.
I'm not going to watch. Oh, well, anytime they do that, I lose interest real quick.
Yep.
As far as not having the same actor, that kind of does it.
Yeah, exactly. So Andy Layton, this is really cool. I went to school and graduated with Andy, and he found us on Facebook. And I'm gonna have to admit, I've been real nervous about telling people about the podcast that I went to school or in their town, but he's really jumped on board. I actually saw Andy. We were. My son and I were going up to this little flea market to get some retro games, and Andy was up there buying some. So, and it looks like I'd say Andy's probably got a pretty good collection of retro games. But he commented on Mortal Kombat saying he sat and watched this the other day after we posted. He said I had gotten this for Christmas last year in Blu-ray, but hadn't watched it yet. He said I loved this in the Street Fighter movie growing up. He says he always loved Street Fighter more. He says he thinks it was because he played that game more than Mortal Kombat. He said I couldn't stand the actor who played Raiden. His voice drove me crazy when I was young, and it drove me crazy when I was young. It still does for some odd reason. I love the rest of the film, though. Personal favorite fight scene is Johnny Cage and Scorpion. So, yeah, he agreed with us with Raiden. It was just the fact that it was kind of annoying. And
of course, I was a Highlander fan growing up. And
really?
And he was in the movie Highlander.
Yeah.
And I watched the TV series, too.
That's one of those shows and movies that I've never really got to dug into.
I'm not sure that you should. Now, I don't know how well it hold up.
No.
But I always watched the Highlander TV show, too. I'm not sure why I did.
We'll go find out when that movie was. Maybe we'll cover it here. Give me a reason to watch it.
There you go.
So, yeah, thanks, Andy. I really appreciate your comment there. And then Jonathan Clark says, I saved up my allowance for a month to see this movie. On the way to the theater, my friend and I gave our money to a homeless guy. I waited 2 years for it to come out in VHS. So, Jonathan Clark, great heart, buddy. And I bet it was just as good on VHS as it was in the theaters because you helped out a homeless guy.
VHS.
So, that's cool. Yeah, I had that movie on VHS. I believe I had it on DVD. And it's funny because every time technology gets better, I always get rid of all the old stuff. I haven't got rid of all my DVDs, but I got rid of a lot of them that I thought I was going to rebuy on Blu-ray, and then I got broke. So, anyways, yeah, that's some good listener responses, and I want to read Aaron Casto, who won the email of the show, just like you can by emailing us at nespodcast@gmail.com. Email us something about the current topics we post on Facebook. Some kind of a lengthy review. It doesn't have to be lengthy, just something with just a good point to it, and then we'll read it, and you got a chance to win a prize. And for our local winners, they're going to probably get a nice dinner. Ryan and I can go hang out with them. But it's funny because Aaron knows I'm a big Star Wars fan, and he titled the email "The Morality of Ewoks," which had nothing to do with the email. We love Aaron Casto, but anyways, he says, I thought it was a decent movie talking about Mortal Kombat. It's hard to get good acting and fighting skills. With the change in CGI and movies altogether since this movie came out, I could only imagine what it would be like today. To be honest, though, I never really got into any of the fighting games like this one. Not solo, anyways. You could always bust out some Tekken or Mortal Kombat when a bunch of buddies came over. So, great. Yeah, I agree with him. There actually is a new version of Mortal Kombat out. It's a TV series, and they've released some of it to Blu-ray. But they've taken, I haven't got to watch a lot of it, but they've taken the characters and made them more believable. Okay. Like, I don't know if you remember, Baraka wasn't in the first Mortal Kombat, but he was the dude with like the crazy big mouth and teeth with the blades coming out of his arms.
Blades.
They, if I'm remembering this right, in that show, they made him into some psycho doctor who implanted blades into his arms. He in the movie or in the video game, he's just a creature from Outworld.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. I really want to dig into it because they kind of try to make all this.
I believe some sort of story, kind of like superheroes all have a reason why they are superheroes.
Yeah.
Almost, I guess.
Yeah. And I remember like Jax, who was Sonya's partner in the movie. He's the guy that ends up having metal arms later on in the series, but he was like a detective, and I think Scorpion and Sub-Zero were like gang leaders, and it was just it kind of had a cool little and it's got some good ratings, so I'd definitely encourage anyone to check it out. I'm going to try to check it out myself because I'm with talking this podcast, I've been really into Mortal Kombat lately, so I might even give that second film another watch. So,
oof,
yeah.
I should probably give it a first watch at least.
The first watch, yeah. Yeah, it's not, like I said, it's not the best, but just for nostalgia's sake. So, Mortal Kombat, I think that was it. Listener responses, we said it held up, and we loved the music, so.
Good, now we can move on to the third part.
Well,
Oh, not yet. I'm sorry.
well, before you do that, I need to get you on board with something. You ready for this?
Oh, no.
You ready? All right. You going to do this with me?
What am I doing again?
Oh, come on, Ryan. Oh, come on. Not going to happen.
The
Huh?
Brave chop.
Oh, you got to love it.
The Braves chop.
So we're going back to sports for this episode, and we are going to talk about my favorite World Series of all time, the 1995 World Series. And thank you, Ryan, for picking this. I wanted you to pick 1995 because I didn't want to pick this just because I didn't want to make it about me. But
You knew I would, so there was no you being the gracious person. You knew that it would come up.
yeah, so Ryan has a story he wants to share. I really wanted to ban this from the podcast. It's not really that good. So
it's a great story.
Go ahead and tell the story, Ryan.
Well, you see, in light of this being, obviously picking up steam in the retro video gaming world, I said the only way that we're going to cover the Braves Indians World Series, because I knew Nick would love to discuss, first off, the Braves only World Series, like of the 90s, I guess, when they were supposedly the dominant team.
They were.
And I said as if we got a game from around that time and played the baseball game and mimicked the kind of like we did. I think we did that in the Buffalo Bills Tecmo Super Bowl. So this podcast throws in a little 2 retro games here for you, and the outcome, needless to say. Well, let's give a little backstory here. Let's backstory this.
Come on now.
We've played many of retro baseball games. Not many games actually. I have RBI Baseball 2 that we've played in my basement on the original Nintendo quite a few times. When
Go Dale Murphy.
And when we're there, so he's always the Braves, and of course I'm always the Reds, and the Reds were pretty good then, and I'm not sure that I've ever beat him. I mean, I really don't think I have beat
Always
him.
score like 5 runs in the first inning.
Yeah,
and
it just turns awful, and so that's where this stood. So I really had nothing to lose in this situation. I believe what was the World Series.
It was Sega Sports World Series '95.
Yeah, so I think it was
Sega
their
Genesis.
second. It was their second because the first one was the '94, I think.
Yeah,
and then
first one just was World Series baseball, and it was in '94.
So we played that on an original Sega console, and Nick, in typical fashion, scored like 4 runs, 5 runs, something. Had a big first inning.
David Justice crushed one.
Couple home runs. It looked ugly. It ended up Then it jumped to like 8-1, like by the 3rd or 4th inning.
I was just cruising.
He's just cruising, and then
Ron figures out how to pitch.
we start chipping away at this lead. Us and me and the Indians, that is. And I mean, just becomes an epic game of went extra innings.
Ugh.
I blew the game first off in the bottom of the 9th. I messed up base running controls drastically and got picked off overrunning.
That was nice.
So going on to into the 10th inning, I don't know. Sometime in extra innings though, Nick hits a home run, 2-run shot I think or something.
Fred McGriff, the Crown Dog,
goes up by 2 runs, and it's like, oh, that's the game. Then bottom of the inning. Needless to say,
Albert Bell crushed one.
Albert Bell comes back. And,
Mike Stanton was pitching too.
Ties the game up again. So we just keep going. At this time, of course, during all this, our wives are very upset because I'm supposed to be cooking dinner. It was a Sunday evening, and I'm supposed to be cooking dinner. And needless to say, we didn't realize we were going to this many extra innings. And so they're like, "Are you going to grill the hamburgers?" and so, but then we come to the last inning. Did you score? You didn't score.
No.
And so it was me, bottom of something, 13th or something, and I come through with a win. I don't even think it was a home run, was it? It was just a...
Nah. Didn't I boot one?
Oh, it was an error.
Yeah,
I won on an error.
Showed up on the scoreboard and
everything.
everything.
It was the greatest thing ever.
That game was awful. Though.
Defeat, and I'm disappointed that Nick has not posted this on Facebook yet, but I think he's been waiting for it.
It's something I've been kind of toying with the idea. I tried filming us playing that, and I wanted to get like some highlights, but all of our kids ran downstairs, and it got kind of hectic. So I may be able to post some of the early highlights. But yeah, I will post that score. I still got it on my phone.
There we go. I won.
I'll make sure to post it after the podcast goes up.
I won.
He did win. And,
I won.
And the only
that. I just want to make sure everyone got that.
The only reason that it happened that way, as a 95 games that sported the 94 roster, Chipper Jones was not on the team.
He was not.
Terry Pendleton was getting old. He was ready to be the hitting coach for the Braves. He shouldn't have been playing a 95, and that was the problem. If Chipper Jones would have been on that team,
that was
his rookie.
Let's get very clear here. First off, there were a lot of problems with that game.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
That game did not hold up well. No, if we're going to go into, we weren't reviewing that game that wasn't our intention.
We won't ever.
And but it was bad as far as baseball game. Like I said, we've played the RBI baseball. No. Is that what we played?
Yeah, RBI Baseball 2.
RBI Baseball 2.
On the NES.
And on the NES. And and of course, that's one I played a lot, but I feel like it's pretty simplistic. I mean, obviously, motion and stuff's not super fluid. It was an original, NES game, but like...
So good.
It was good. It's a good game. I enjoy it very, I enjoyed beating Nick, obviously, in this 95 game, but, I did not enjoy playing the game. I was just, the whole time I'm just frustrated. It would do weird things, base runners would be on first, and, you would to tell them to run, and they're not running, and you're like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden it would just be like, blip, and they would be on second, and you're like,
oh, easy out.
You're like, okay, there you go. And Nick got called out on one that was it was a bad call. I'll give him, it was a bad call.
Yeah.
And then pitches would just randomly dive off the screen.
It was so bad I was ready for Bobby Cox to throw a chair out of the dugout. It was that bad.
It was not a good game. Although I may forever. I think you bought the cartridge, didn't you?
I did. It was on Amazon. I got it for $8 on Prime, free shipping. It was in the shrink wrap.
I'm pretty sure that we should sign that with the score, and I should post that on my wall of my basement. I think that's what we should do with it.
Of course, if you do that, I'm probably going to request a rematch because that's shameful. I'll tell you what else is shameful. Every time, and we'll quit with the game soon, but every time you would hit a home run, it would...
Oh, that's right. I forgot that.
It would show the runner running every base really slow, but this was kind of cool at first until the fifth home run we hit. But you would hit A, B, or C, and the guy would do a cartwheel or pump his fist or point to the crowd, and it was just...
You could not skip it.
Oh, it was
awful. And they ran slow around the bases. It was bad, especially it was definitely an offensive game. That's what we decided that it was. I think the score was 11-10 or something. It was
close to 30 hits apiece.
It was insane.
15 innings.
So the game, which we weren't reviewing, is not a good game.
Nah.
Now what's funny is I won't say that I was a closet Braves fan. Getting back to the actual topic, but being in a child of the 90s, you had to like the Braves. Everybody, it was kind of the bandwagon team, whether you necessarily, Nick's not a bandwagon. He's been a Braves fan forever, but it was kind of like that team that everyone jumped on board with because they were so good, for so long. And of course they were shown on TV a lot of, because what is it,
TBS,
Turner? Yep. The guy
owned
he owned the Braves, owned the stations, and so that obviously helped. So it's kind of like Dallas. I always feel like the Dallas Cowboys were that type team, the nation's team kind of deal.
The Bulls, the Braves, and the Cowboys were always the big teams in the 90s.
And I was a pitcher through Little League and things, and so of course the Braves pitching staff was insanely phenomenal. And I really related, not that I was good, I wasn't very good, but I related to Greg Maddux because I did not have overpowering stuff as a pitcher. And it's funny, all my friends are always like, oh, I throw harder than you, I was like, yeah, but you can't throw a strike. They, when they'd throw a strike, it'd be insanely fast and the kid couldn't hit it, but it's they'd walk 14 batters. Yeah. And I was just the guy that could just place things pretty well and throw lots and lots of strikes. So I always thought, I was the Greg Maddux of the Little League.
Yeah, man. You're talking about Greg Maddux, I'm getting cold chills. I remember, I'm that... I have that much love for the Braves. But I remember Greg Maddux, he had this, and I learned how to throw this pitch. We went out and learned it when I was in Little League and stuff, but he had this circle changeup, and that ball would just drop. And it was so funny because I specifically remember this because my dad was taping the game. We rewound it and watched it about 3 or 4 times. But Greg Maddux he threw one, an 0-2 pitch, and this guy swung so hard and just pretty much spun around. So Greg Maddux turns and looks like Fred McGriff, and they both have to put their gloves over their face because they're laughing so hard.
That's awesome.
And I love that memory. And I remember, remembering that with my dad. And, part of my love for the Braves came from my dad, because my dad grew up in Tampa Bay, Florida. There wasn't the Marlins and the Tampa Bay Rays didn't exist in the 70s, and everyone in Florida was a huge Braves fan. Even when you go down there now, and my dad has a house down there in Orlando, everyone's still pretty big Braves fans down there. So that's kind of my love for the Braves, and it wasn't a bandwagon thing.
Right.
I still get accused of that. They're in first place right now, and it's like I think they were 5 or 6 games up last time I checked, and and I still get accused. You just like the Braves because they're always winning, but as history shows, not a lot of World Series. But,
yeah, I was surprised about that. I mean, I'm not a diehard baseball fan. I was surprised to find that was because I would just assume that they were a 2-3 time champ throughout the 90s, just given their success.
Yeah. A lot of heartbreaking games they had. So I know I mentioned in the podcast before that I wanted to talk about I believe it was a 91 World Series, just for the fact that the Braves, I think it was 91 where they had the worst record in the league going to the All-Star break, and they came back and made it to the World Series. Of course, they got beat by the Twins. It was a heartbreaker. But that was kind of the start of their dominance, and they had gosh, how many years were they divisional champs? It was almost near 20. It was like 14, I think.
I'll say 14 is what sticks in my head.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny because I went back and watched some YouTube videos of this, some of the post-game interviews, and they kept asking all the Braves players the same question. How's it feel to get the monkey off your back? How's it feel? I think now it's like, I think the monkey's even bigger now, if that's the case, because they've been contenders for so long now, and they make playoffs and they just choke, and it's defeating. But this is such a good memory for me going back, and especially them beating the Cleveland Indians. And I'll let you go into the Cleveland Indians offense. How awesome was their offense? Right?
I live in Ohio, and of course I'm a Reds fan. More than I live at the bottom part of Ohio, so it's a 4.5-5 hour trek almost to get to Cleveland, and I not being a diehard baseball fan or a Cleveland fan, I didn't realize basically till we played that game, and going through the roster that how insanely. I knew Jim Tomei, I knew Kenny Lofton was there, but I just had forgotten of this whole lineup was just insane. I mean, you had Lofton, you had Vizquel, you had Tomei was on. He was probably playing. I think they had him at third at that time, which I didn't.
I don't know. I think that game just told us wrong.
And that's possible. It seems like he played third early in his career and then switched over I don't know. But maybe not. And
Carlos Baerga.
They had Baerga, and they had Ramirez.
Early Manny was awesome.
I don't even remember who else.
Omar Vizquel was there.
Right, Vizquel.
Sandy Alomar Jr.
Sandy Alomar Jr. And I did a Wikipedia search because I figured I should at least look up. But their offensive lineup at one point had 8 guys that basically batted over 300 for the year. And a couple of those guys weren't always in the lineup, but they had 6 guys that were solidly. Albert Bell, forgot about Albert Bell, didn't mention him there. And
Albert Bell had the coolest swing. He had the coolest stance, and this. I just thought
he was. And what's shocking is I just remember Albert Bell as this big, power hitter. Yeah. Is what I remember him as. But he was a 50 home run, 50 doubles guy, like one of the few guys that could. He had some speed to him. And so. Their offensive. It was kind of that. It was kind of a cool matchup when the Braves had offensive power too, but they were definitely known. They were definitely known for their pitching staff too. They had 4 starters that were just, phenomenal, and so it was just kind of this offensive juggernaut versus this, pitching staff that was really good. And I read that all games were decided by 1 run. I think. Or close to that. It was a very close series. The Braves won it in 6.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm cheating here. Game 1 was 3-2 Braves. I skipped one. Game 1 was 3-2 Braves. The Game 2 was 4-3 Braves. Game 3 was 1-0 Indians. Game 4 was 5-2 Braves. Okay. And then Game 5 was 5-4 Indians. Game 6 was 1-0 Braves.
Okay, so
all but one.
5 out of 6 were. So clearly, as far as exciting goes, it had the excitement element. I don't remember watching it. Sadly enough, I'm sure you watched it.
I do.
And so I should shut up and let you talk more about it now. But
no. I like that you're remembering.
And but I just it's just kind of neat to go. And it was the year after the strike. And so I kind of
which during the strike, the Montreal Expos were wiping the Braves like nothing. That was the team to beat that year, the Expos, and their lineup was crazy. They had Larry Walker and Pedro Martinez, and there was pitching. It was awesome.
What's funny is I remember. I basically after the strike, I really fizzled out of baseball.
A lot of people just got a bad taste in their mouth for baseball.
And of course, and I was playing baseball up till then, like 95. I'd have been. in high school,
Eighth and
freshman,
ninth grade, yeah.
sophomore, and I was basically playing basketball only at that time, and just kind of was out of baseball and just didn't follow it near as much.
Yeah.
And so of course, poor Cleveland. This, the sports curse of Cleveland.
Yeah.
Just to give them a shout out before you go doting on the Braves a little more. Like they can never do anything right. Wasn't it the Browns that had all the rough breaks, and then LeBron leaves, and the city of Cleveland.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of ironic because in the early '90s you had the movie Major League and Major League 2 that came out before this World Series, and just
surprising we didn't do one of those, Nick. What's that?
we'll have to. But yeah, it was making fun about how bad the Indians really were, and then the Indians started picking it up. It was almost like a I don't know, like an omen to them.
Yeah.
They could probably make a movie out of that.
Probably.
About how that movie made them win.
They were bad.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this game, the Indians on paper really should have won. They were 144 that year, and the Braves were 90 and 54. So, the Indians really, it looked like that. I mean, going into that with that kind of power and that kind of speed. Kenny Lofton, you had speed. You had guys who stole bases, guys who could hit home runs. You had it all. And like you said, it was real exciting because it was real close games, definitely pitcher duels. And the great thing about the Braves starting pitchers, you had Tom Glavine, who won the MVP, Greg Maddux, John Smoltz, Steve Avery. All four of those guys could have been number one guys at other ball clubs, and they have been. And I used to try to imitate, like you said, I used to try to imitate his windup, and I was a huge Greg Maddux fan. I actually, whenever we play sports, like we'll play a church softball league, I always pick number 31 because that was Greg Maddux's number, and he was
wow.
And it was also so stupid.
It's borderline creepy, but that's okay.
It is. And then at the time, I always thought Mike Piazza was kind of cool, and he was number 31 too. But you had this great pitching staff, and the Braves weren't short for good hitters. Fred McGriff and Dave Justice, and of course Chipper Jones was a rookie that year. Ryan Klesko, he was your mediocre 20 home run kind of batting 250.
They were solid.
Yeah, and they had some good players, and it's always funny when you look at the Rookie of the Year that year because Chipper was a rookie and he was second place for Rookie of the Year, and he lost to Hideo Nomo. And Nomo was a cool guy to watch because he was one of the first guys.
Crazy windup.
Yeah, come from Japan. He was dominant, but they figured him out a few years later, and he had some good years. But Chipper Jones was definitely the guy that came out.
Let's just say it. He's your favorite guy.
He is my favorite guy.
He's your favorite guy.
I follow Chipper Jones on Twitter, and he's still. And I love Chipper because he still supports the Braves. Whenever the Braves are playing, my Twitter feed just explodes. He'll announce what's happening. Good play, Jay. Hey, he calls Jason Hayward Jay. Hey, but and it's weird about this. I guess it's kind of a newer World Series. There was only one Hall of Famer recently, or at all in this World Series. And it was Eddie Murray.
Okay.
So, and he was at the end of his career.
Yeah.
He's definitely a heck of a player. He was a switch hitter, and he was the best switch hitter, had the best stats for the longest time until Chipper Jones blew him out of the water. I'm just gonna put that out there. So
Chipper's a Hall of Famer, obviously.
Absolutely.
He'll be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. He's at the end of his career and he won a batting title.
Yeah.
He kind of pulled back on his power and really did what he needed to do for the team. And I always respected Chipper, and he got a lot of bad rap for being a jerk, but later on in the 90s when they signed Vinny Castilla from the Rockies, who was a awesome power hitting third baseman, he moved to the outfield to allow that to happen. And when he moved to the outfield, he started getting hurt more, and it kind of put his. He was just, to me, that was selfless. He played for the same team his whole career, and I could gloat all day about him, but I'm not going to.
I will say I was surprised. I didn't realize Oral Hershiser was a pitcher for the Indians that year. I was a Hershiser fan
Dodgers,
as well.
He played for the Dodgers.
Played for the Dodgers. Yeah. Was I don't even know why, but I always liked Hershiser, and I didn't realize he even played for the Indians at all until looking back at that.
Yeah, and I believe Tom Glavine won the MVP.
Yeah, he was the MVP.
Just for the fact, I believe he won. Did he win 2 games here?
I think so.
He won Game 2, and I believe he probably won Game 6. Yeah, he won Game 6. And of course, Game 6 was awesome because it was 0-0.
It was a one hit.
Tom Glavine threw a one-hitter.
Shutout, right?
Mark Wohlers came in and got the save, and Dave Justice hit that home run in the bottom of the 6th inning. I was just, I always loved Dave Justice. It broke my heart to see him get traded to the Yankees, and that happens a lot.
Who doesn't get traded to the Yankees?
All these great players came through the Braves, and I had Mark Teixeira. He was with the Braves, I think, a year and a half. I actually got to watch him play Cincinnati, and he hit a home run, and I was so excited. We got a huge player, and then he gets traded to the Braves. And a few years before that, traded to the Yankees. And a few years before that, Gary Sheffield came over for the Braves for like half a year, traded to the Yankees, and then few years ago we tried to sign A.J. Burnett, and the Yankees signed him. It's just like, ugh, I hate the Yankees.
The Yankees just throw money around like it's candy.
It's like, I hate the Yankees as much as I do the Miami Heat.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not. We rooted against. We're big Spurs fans.
I'm sure we probably discussed that at some point on the podcast. And
we'll be talking Spurs later.
I might cry.
Yeah,
so.
Ryan and I have not had a good year of NBA. So. But so I mean, when you look at the names of people who hit home runs, you have Fred McGriff hit a home run in Game 1. Game 2, Javi Lopez, Eddie Murray hit home runs. Fred McGriff hit another one. Ryan Klesko hit one on Game 3. Game 4, Ryan Klesko hit another one. Cleveland's Game 4, Albert Bell, Manny Ramirez. And just these names are just huge. Game 5, you had Ryan Klesko hitting his third home run. Cleveland, Albert Bell hit another one. Jim Tomei hit one. And, of course, Game 6, the only home run was Dave Justice. So it looked like, your typical guys were just crushing the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they played well.
Yeah.
Seems like everybody that you expected to play well. Because sometimes you get in, now when I've watched, recent World Series and things, like it's like...
Guys choke.
And it's these unexpected guys are just being phenomenal, which is kind of fun to watch too. But it's at the same time, it's like I want to see this great guy that gets paid millions of dollars do what he does,
Exactly.
and then they just can't do it. And so, so it seems like that's what happened with that. Like I said, I don't remember watching it, but and so I'm sure that you've enjoyed your walk down memory lane of the Braves only. World Series there, championship.
Yeah, and it's
the nice thing is the repeat didn't happen on the World Series baseball '95.
Yeah, it was a bad game anyways. So. And,
so you're saying that in a 7-game series that
I'd beat you.
You'd win?
Gosh, that game took so long. I don't know if I could play 7.
Our wives won't let us. I don't think we got hot water over that.
Might have had to play RBI baseball again.
Oh yeah, go back to the game you dominated. Yeah, I see.
But yeah, like I said, I'm a huge Braves fan. I got a Braves junk all over my cubicle work. I still have a Bobby Cox bobblehead at my desk, even though he's not the coach anymore. And I love Bobby Cox. He was such an awesome coach because he would rarely let his players go and argue. That's why he got thrown out so much. And of course, you had the pitching coach Liam Mazzotti, who was always doing that shaking thing. And I missed that. That was just the Braves. You turn on TBS and you saw those two guys. And I love Bobby Cox because when you watch him live, you could always hear him root for the guys from the dugout. Come on, Chip! You'd always hear that. I love that. But he was the coach, and he was a coach for the Indians that year. Was this year? It was Mike Hargrove, which doesn't really. I know who he is, but it's not some.
So, did anybody comment on the page? Like
absolutely.
Else? Oh, wow,
yeah, that's what I thought was
absolutely.
cool. I was getting a little worried because Ryan and I like our sports, and we just want to make sure you guys are liking us do it. We're probably always going to do it towards the end. For those who don't like sports, you can just tune us out, and we'll try to make all the.
And we'll try to throw in the games when we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can include some retro gaming. That's kind of I think that's the brunt of our thing. A lot of people like the the retro gaming community. And,
we were all a lot of us playing sports games around that time. We probably followed I know more about '90s sports than I do current sports. I have a little hard time following it now. I still watch it, but there's a lot of times when you'll turn on an All-Star game, like I don't even know who that guy is. But, I could tell you every All-Star what their stats were in the '90s. So, we'll read Facebook comments here. Matthew Vinson, he said he saw the Braves and Mets in '96 and got to see some of the Olympic stuff by Old Turner Field. So and the Braves, they went to a new field there around the time of the Olympics. That's kind of cool. I still have yet to go to Atlanta. I've seen the Braves play in Cincinnati and in Pittsburgh, but I've never seen them play in Atlanta. It's definitely a goal of mine.
I'm sure it'll happen.
It's sad, but right when I started getting a job and everything, you get married, get kids. I'm waiting for the kids get a little older.
So wait a minute, so you're blaming the wife and kids?
Absolutely. Okay. She's not listening to this, so she will never know I said that. Drew Rowland, probably my favorite comment on the whole page, says, "Go Braves!"
There you go.
No, I'm glad we got some Braves fans. Scott Goldsberry, a local friend of ours, says, "For some reason, I always had a strong dislike for the Braves. It seemed that every Reds game I went to as a kid was a Braves game, so that may be the reason. Don't know much."
I was going to say, he's a diehard Reds fan.
He is.
I'm sure that's tough to see, as the Braves dominated the 90s.
Yeah, and before I finish this out, that before 94, there was only the few divisions, and the Braves were in the division with the Reds before they switched to the new format, the three formats they have now. So that was definitely probably hard on Reds fans. Probably a little easier now since the Reds are in the Central and the Braves are in the East. It helps. So. But he says, don't know much about their history, except when I hear the name Braves, I think Glavine and Smoltz. So, yeah, I mean, Braves pitching staff is always kind of the first thing that comes to everyone's mind. They really didn't have any, other than Chipper Jones that year, they didn't have any huge names. I mean, Fred McGriff was good, but he's not one of those. When you think of the all-time best hitters, you're not going to say Fred McGriff. So. Andy Layton commented on this again. He says, the Braves should have won more titles with that pitching staff. Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz. I absolutely agree. I don't know that. I don't think he's a Braves fan. He might have been saying that a little bit out of criticism, but I agree as a fan, yes, they should have won more.
Right, they should have. But there's always, with sports, one thing I've noticed, there's so many things that happen with injuries and just crazy, weird things, that they never seem to work out that way, except for the Miami Heat.
Yeah. Jonathan Clark says, I love the Braves. My favorite player was David Justice. I used to write to him weekly hoping he'd come to my non-existent birthday parties.
Nice.
In 95, after the strike was over and the short season done, I was grounded during the playoffs. My punishment? My mom took away the TV and didn't let me watch the playoffs World Series, and she kept the newspapers from me. To this day, I haven't seen that sweet swing that hit the only home run of the winning game of the World Series by my favorite player. Haven't even seen a single playoff game or World Series game from 95. I was 13 and it crushed me. I love that comment. I encourage all of the listeners, write your memories. That's awesome. I can't even remember back that far. The 94 strike was rough and coming back. I'm sure they lost a lot of, because you got these guys making that much money complaining, and it's just, whatever. But, that would have been hard. Parents taking your TV away from you.
I always feel like baseball is the one sport that a lot of people can go to and watch. Like I think tickets are always pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
For that professional sporting event, professional football game, which I've never been to, but like tickets are
because it's so expensive.
Outrageous. First off, they only have whatever it is, 16, 17 games or whatever they play. So like obviously they probably have to charge more. Yeah. Baseball has a lot of games, I get, but it's like you can just afford to go. Like, so nobody in my family is a great baseball fan, but I've gone to numerous, Reds games, over my lifetime, which...
It's not like they're not accessible, because we live, 2.5 hours away from Cincinnati Bengals?
Right,
and then Pittsburgh's 3 hours. I want to go watch the Pittsburgh Steelers,
like that,
3.5. So, I went up to watch the Braves play the Pirates, and the stadium up there is gorgeous for the football, but I just can't pay that price.
Right, it's just,
Yeah, baseball's definitely more of a... And it's more of a family-friendly sport, because you don't have to really pay it. I mean, it's slower, you can...
Right. You're missing stuff if you're,
Yeah, but they're going to replay it.
Right.
ESPN 3 times. And Jonathan Clark actually commented again. He commented Andy Layton's comment about the pitching staff. He has Andy, not only legendary pitching, but awesome hitters. He says when Justice was healthy, like he said, 40 home runs and 120 RBIs. Fred McGriff, Kenny Lofton, Chipper Jones, Ryan Klesko, they had everything a manager could want. Gold Glove winners, Cy Young Award winners, batting titles. There's definitely some truth in that.
When did Kenny Lofton
was
switch over?
It was after.
It was after the World Series.
Yeah, it was either a year after, or maybe a few years later.
Okay.
So I don't know. He bounced back and forth so much. He probably could already been on 4 different teams and then came back.
You'd said the guy that played on every
he's
team in Major League Baseball.
Like the Ricky Henderson thing. But, and then the last comment, Caleb Rogers just said Braves are my favorite team as well. So big shout out to Caleb Rogers. so that's it for listener responses. And I could sit here and just babble about the '95 World Series all night. I'm not going to do that. We've already.
It seems like we've.
This is probably one of the longer podcasts.
We've babbled longer. Must be we're just both tired and babbling.
Yeah.
But.
Now I promised Brian Rapallo. I hope I'm saying that right, Brian. We talk all the time on Facebook. That I would bring up this song on our podcast that came out in '94.
Oh dear.
Instead of just bringing it up, what I'm going to do is we're going to make a new segment. It's going to be called, I got to find a cool name for it, but it's pretty much going to be, I'm going to read some lyrics and Ryan's going to try to guess the song.
This is going to be the worst segment ever because I know I'm terrible at songs, but give it a shout here.
I'll give you...
Give me a genre. I at least need a genre.
It's rap.
Something. It's rap.
1995 rap.
Okay.
So, and I'll give you 2 lines. If you don't get it, I'll give you 2 more lines.
That was my rap phase.
Okay. So here we go. This is part of the verse.
Are you going to do it like straight off the album, like, or are you going to like
I'm going to talk like a history teacher or something.
Oh, that's too bad.
Well, if I rap it, you're going to get it.
You think so?
Yeah, because Brian sent me a YouTube video. He says, you got to talk about this. I'm like, all right, Brian's done so much for our little retro community. I got to give big props to Brian. So here we go, Ryan. You ready?
Sure.
Look at the situation they got me facing. I can't live a normal life. I was raised by the streets.
Oh, no. I ain't got nothing.
All right, here's for you. So I got to be down with the hood team. Too much television watching got me chasing dreams.
I should know that one, too.
Okay. Here's the next one. You should get it with this one.
Oh, well, we'll see. This is good. I told you this is going to be a bad segment.
If you don't get it with this one, I'll just start doing the chorus, and you have no choice. I'm an educated fool with money on my mind. Got a 10 in my hand and a gleam in my eye. I love how I said that.
You love how I still couldn't name it.
All right, here we go. I'm not going to say the name of the song, but I'm going to give you the chorus.
Okay.
Been spending most of their lives living in the. That's awful.
My bad. Listen, I told you. I feel like a huge failure now. I'm going to quit the podcast and never.
I love this segment. Gangster's Paradise, Coolio.
Gangster's Paradise.
Came out in 1995.
I should have got that.
Yeah.
Well, see, had you done Amish Paradise by
Weird Al
Yankovic, I probably would have gotten it. And
so we're going to do this every week.
you have to also remember, see, we live in the Bible Belt, and my parents sheltered me. I'm pretty sure I wasn't allowed to listen to anything other than gospel quartet music. So.
In a memory about this album, I had this album, and I bought a cassette tape at it was a local, like, July 4th thing, and when I got it home and took it out of the shrink wrap, it was a paper copy of the insert, and someone had, it was like an illegal copy of the cassette tape. And, of course, all I listened to was Gangster's Paradise.
Right.
I couldn't tell you any other song on there. But
well, here's what's sad. Is you know how that song's most memorable to me is from, what is that movie, Dangerous Minds.
Oh yeah, with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer, and she goes into inner city school or something. Like that's where, like, when I hear that song, that's what I envision that scene from. I want to hear it now.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to go for it. Just roll it out. I mean, you got like a minute left of the podcast. Let's hear it, Nick.
Look at the situation they got me facing. I can't live a normal life. I was raised by the streets, so I gotta be down with the hood team. Too much television watching got me chasing dreams. Is that good?
I'm shocked. You'll edit that out.
No, I won't. I'll keep it in there. I might just start the podcast.
And so, there you go.
I love the part in the song where
Money on my mind. You know how it goes? Is that part of it?
No, that's Gin and Juice.
Oh, I don't know what it is. Man, edit that out. I'm done. That's all the rap I've got.
My favorite part of that song, because I feel like they just threw this word in there for no reason. He says, "And my homies is down, so don't rouse my anger, fool."
There it is. Fool.
All right, that's enough rap for the show.
That's enough rap for a lifetime.
For a lifetime. That was a good show.
I'm gonna put that on my thing too.
On your what thing?
On my running list. Gangster's Paradise and Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I gotta get some Gangster's Paradise. So we're gonna do that every show from now on. We're gonna stump Ryan, and we'll just keep
That's gonna be a bad segment, people.
We're gonna keep a record. He's 0-1, so yeah, we'll just keep doing. I promise I'll do top songs. I'm not gonna go deep tracks into any like Megadeth albums that I listen to, because that's the stuff that's memorable to me. So
I'm telling you, I listen to like Forgiven 4 or something. I don't even know. You have no idea what I listened to as a kid.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that's why I'm just going to keep. Maybe you get some jock jams if I just hum the tune. Down.
Say some Cotton Eye Joe. That was always on jock jams.
Rednecks. All right, so that was 95. This was a good episode. I had a lot of fun. Good picks, Ryan. Next episode, we've talked about this. This is going to be a pretty good lineup, I think.
I'm excited.
First, we're going to talk about a game that came out in 96 that, like Tekken, has had a huge, just lasting appeal. The original Resident Evil. And I have some awesome memories about this and how much it scared the crap out of me.
I'm actually excited. I'll actually be playing Resident Evil for the first time.
Yeah, you were a Resident Evil 2.
I started at 2 and never went back.
A lot of people I talked to felt that way because, when 2 came out, everyone would say, don't play the first one. It's not as good. And it wasn't as good as 2, but it's really cool to see how that game started and what it is today. And like, I know you and I agree, Resident Evil 4 is awesome.
Yeah.
We love that game. So we'll be talking about that. We'll find a way for you to play it. I don't think you can get it on PSN. I told you that.
Okay.
So I may just let you borrow that again. And then the movie is going to be Independence Day with Will Smith. So we're going for gold here. These two things are, Independence Day and Resident Evil, big hits in '96. And then we're going to do another sports because I felt like this championship was a significant part of the '90s. It was the 1996 NBA Finals, and for those of you who may remember, that was the year Jordan came back. He wore number 45. He was playing baseball the year before.
Yeah.
And that was the start of a second three-peat. And they played the Seattle Supersonics. So I feel like I have to talk about Jordan because if you go to our Facebook page on the cover photo, I got a picture of Michael Jordan on it.
Well, he's definitely synonymous with the 90s.
Yeah. He was in
owned that
movies,
decade.
video games.
Yeah.
Did he have a rap album or was that Shaq? I think it was Shaq. Shaq had his own video
Obviously,
game.
I wouldn't know. So I'm going to...
Oh, I love it. So yeah, 96. Please write in about Resident Evil Independence Day 96 finals to nespodcast@gmail.com. we're not going to keep something alive that doesn't work. So if we don't get a lot of emails this time, we're probably just going to put a fork in that segment. And I got another idea for giving away prizes. We'll incorporate into the Facebook page. And I know for myself, I listened to podcasts for years before I would write in. And once I did write in, they started reading my stuff, and that's what kind of got me thinking I can start a podcast.
Say, don't be intimidated.
Yeah, don't be intimidated, because
we're less than normal people.
Yeah, because when you can't guess the lyrics of Gangster's Paradise, you know you can write into us, not be intimidated.
11-10 World Series Baseball 95. That's it. That's all. I'm done. I don't have nothing else to say to you.
We get a chalkboard down your basement and keep all these records. Who's better than who? We'll have our 5K race time on there too. But.
I'll win that. Don't worry about it.
Anyways, we're going to end with just promoting everything again. Check us out on Facebook if you haven't already. Facebook.com/NES podcast. Please hit the like button. We're almost at 300 likes, Ryan. So that's really cool. I just want to thank each and every person who's liked us. That means a lot, and everyone who listens to us, I haven't really been paying attention to the download stats, but it's been really steady from day one. So I'm just it's just awesome that people are tuning in and responding. It's more than I ever thought would happen. I figured we'd just come in here and just have a good time, but it's been good. And
I kind of figured it would fizzle, and then I'd get my nights free, podcast. But especially now that you're throwing in new things, and you've branched out, all different,
I just kind of do as I please on that without passing.
Right. Well, my responsibilities with the podcast are pretty low, so I can't say much. You do all the heavy lifting, so.
Which I enjoy. It's a lot of fun, and that's why like the Genesis Gym podcast is actually a little.
You're me. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, and I've done some work there, but it's just kind of nice to just kind of do it. So, but and again, a huge thank you to Rob and Landon at the Retro Junkies. These two guys just opened their arms to us, and I found them on iTunes. I got bored with some podcasts I was listening to, so I typed in retro games. There they were. When we started this podcast a few months later, they were just the nicest guys on the podcast. I emailed them thinking, long shot, maybe these guys will promote us, and here we are. 6 episodes later, and we're part of their retro community. So, and I'm doing a podcast with Rob, the host. So, thank you guys so much. If you're listening to this, just it's awesome. We never met in person, but I consider them friends. So that's really cool. Also, huge shout out to Brian Rapallo, who did the website. And go check it out. We're on there. It's theretrojunkies.com. There's forums on there. They just started a forum for us. We can get some comments and stuff. And our podcast is under, I think it's under other goodies, and something about other podcasts. So we're in the entertainment spot of it. They have a lot of retro game podcasts, and then we're there. So go and check that out. You can listen to our podcast on that site and all kinds of other quality podcasts, just from everyday people like us. And also go check out the NES Club again. Big thank you again to Rob, who joined us a few weeks ago and did that interview. I believe he's filming now, or they're doing a launch party sometime soon. Facebook.com/NES Club. That's going to be an awesome documentary. It comes out. He's going to be up in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm trying to convince Ryan to drive up there with me so we can hang out with that guy. Or just say hi and then leave.
Just say hi. It'd be like a weird stalking.
Remember us? Maybe we can get in the movie. He would just pop in the background and wave real big.
When you have T-shirts made,
we'll have T-shirts. We'll look like
90s entertainment show,
just awful tourists or something. So big thank you to that, and also check out my side podcast, Genesis Gyms. Facebook.com/Genesis Gym Podcast. And you listened to that, Ryan? Did you like it?
I have. I was disappointed. I was expecting, the weekly Tuesday podcast. And something happened, and so.
Well, it wasn't me.
And,
I'm not going to throw Rob under the bus or anything, but I think his electric went out. So we are going to record.
Things happen. I was like, we're late on this one. I think,
we are. Which worked out nice because. I was a little worried because I was going to record that last night, record this tonight. Didn't know how that was going to go with the family, but now we're going to record Genesis Gym Saturday, so that works out well. So, anyways, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Please give us feedback, suggestions, reviews. Go to our Facebook and just light that wall up. I'm very good about responding because I have everything linked to my phone, and if I'm on a break at work or at lunch or something, I usually respond right away. So, yeah, we want to be very interactive with all the listeners. So, with that, you got anything else, Ryan?
I'm good.
All right, we'll catch you next time.